Thank you very much for the question. If it's an issue of importance with respect to the $100, it's an issue worth fighting for. I'll bring it to the attention of the Ontario Liberal Party. But what I can tell you, when we sit and talk social housing, it's easy for us to talk social housing, what we're going to do. Or both the New Democrats and the Conservatives had an opportunity to address social housing. They couldn't do it. The Liberals did it. They built social housing in Cornwall in the last 4 years, and they built social housing out in the counties in the last 4 years, and they did it in the worst of economic times. And it's interesting that the NDP candidate talks about corporate tax cuts. I want to ask anybody here, if you can turn on the news and not see one story about the economic situation globally, Greece, France, Spain, Portugal, and we have a party that says they're interested in corporate tax cuts, in raising corporate taxes, job cutting. We have thousands of jobs coming to Cornwall. There was a front page story not long ago that they're not going to have enough people in Cornwall to fill those jobs. They're going to have to go out of town. And we have a party that's talking about raising corporate taxes. Now's the time to stay on course and stay on track. And the Ontario Liberal Party policies have set us apart in Ontario from the rest of the world in the economic situation, education, environment, and healthcare. And I'm involved because I think we should stay on track. Thank you.
All right, Jim McTonnell and the Progressive Conservatives, please.
As well, our party has not dealt with that issue at that depth, but I'll tell you that I know people, and I have people in our family that have severe problems trying to make ends meet, and that will be one of my priorities, to make sure that we make life affordable. And under a PC government, we're going to go in and make some of the changes that this current government, after 8 years, has only made worse. We're going to make sure that apprenticeship program will handle a 1-to-1 ratio to give more people a chance to work in this community. I met with a group of contractors the other day, and they would have hired 6 people, small group of 3 different companies, 6 additional people, if they would make this rule the same as it is in the rest of this country. We're looking at a premier of this province after 8 years that is mismanaged and actually has chosen the second worst leader in this country for the fiscal shape of the province of Ontario. We can't continue with this. We have to get people back to work. And under a PC government, we're going to reduce or remove the HST immediately off your heating oil and your hydro bills, and remove the debt retirement charge. We've made life unaffordable over the last 8 years, and we have to bring Ontario back. We have to make it strong. Our unemployment in this province is higher than the national average for over the last 4 years, the entire second term of Dalton McGidgey's reign. It's time for change under the PC government. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to question number 2. A full-time worker earning minimum wage today has an annual salary that's about $1,000 below the poverty line. Poverty-Free Ontario wants to see a gradual increase of the minimum wage over the next 3 years, so workers can live at least 10% above the line. Does your party support a minimum wage increase, and how much would that increase be? And we'll start with Mark MacDonald and the Liberals, please.
Well, in answer to your question, I think the minimum wage increase is reviewed and voted on in the legislature. And it's interesting to note that the Liberals raised the minimum wage and the Conservatives voted against it. So it'll be interesting to see how that question is answered. And it's easy to sit here and criticize, things are so bad in Ontario. Things are so bad in Ontario. Ontario's leading the way with respect to education. Not only are our kids getting a great start, they're getting a great finish. Under previous Conservative governments, they closed schools. Schools were in chaos. Our environmental policies are backed by David Suzuki. The future, and Conservatives are talking about tearing up the Green Energy Act that's creating jobs. The future's green energy. The future's green energy. That's the way that we need our children breathing clean air and drinking clean water. Our healthcare system. You know, things are so bad. Things are so bad in Ontario. We've built hospitals in this riding. We've hired nurses. And yet you have a Conservative telling you, oh no, things are bad. The economic situation worldwide, Ontario is at the top. So you can have somebody telling you one thing, but what I'm asking you is to look around and you judge for yourself. You judge for yourself. Thank you.
All right, we'll move next to Jim McDonnell, please.
I think under our party supports making life more affordable in other ways other than lowering or raising minimum wage. We're looking at reducing the costs. I've seen over the last few years where the wages have gone up, and all that means is our employers have hired less people. And we have to protect the employment. We've already had the highest unemployment in this country, higher than the average. So we have to attack that and make sure that we bring people back to work. So we have some money left over for the other people that really need our help. And I guess, you know, if I look at education, it hasn't done my colleague to the side much good, because when you go from 2 hospitals to 1, I think that means you're closing a hospital. But I don't say I disagree with the plan. I think having one great hospital, the plan put forth by the former Tory government, was a good plan, and we're glad to see they endorsed it when they actually funded the renovation of the McConnell Street Hospital. But we need to do more. We need to get out there and make life affordable once again in Ontario. We got to bring it back to where we were before Dalton McKenty went in with all his promises that he never kept. We have to have a premier in power that we can trust, and you can do that with Tim Hudak. Thank you.
And we'll move to Elaine McDonald, please.
I can't help but notice that both my colleagues dodged the issue of the minimum wage and how low it is right now and how inadequate it is. The minimum wage has had an interesting history in Ontario. It was frozen in 1995, as you might know, didn't budge for 8 years, was raised minimally over the last few years, and 4 years ago, the CLC and the labor movement got behind the $10 minimum wage movement, and we forced the government to bump the minimum wage up to $10 an hour, and now, since then, it's at $10.25 and frozen again. The NDP would immediately raise minimum wage to $11 an hour. Now, some people in business cringe. They think, oh my gosh, you're going to put me out of business. Now, I'm going to quote Henry Ford here. He was no socialist, but he was a smart man, and he knew that if people are working for you, they should be able to buy the product they're making. And I said that to a bakery shop owner 4 days ago, who told me he couldn't afford a minimum wage of $11. I said, well, and I just bought a whole lot of goods for my campaign workers, and I said, well, unless you pay your people more, then they won't even be able to afford to buy the goodies that I've just bought. So really, $11 an hour is where we'll start, and from there on, we're going to tie it to the rate of inflation. We're talking about recompense for labor, not some sort of servitude. Thank you.
All right, on to question number 3. Thank you, candidates. Current social assistant rates don't reflect the current cost of living and are far below the poverty line. For example, in 1996, a single Ontario Works recipient received $663 a month, and now 15 years later, the single rate is $595 a month. It means individuals and families face cycles of chronic hunger and desperation. Does your party support an increase in social assistance rates, and how does your party plan on implementing this increase? And we will start with Jim McDonnell and the Progressive Conservatives.
Thank you for the question. Say our party has not got down to that level yet, but I know I support increases to the assistance that our needy people need. And I think that a two-pronged approach, of course. You've got to get the people that can work the ability to go out to work in a dignified manner. But there are always some people who need some help, and right now they're at a stage where they can't survive. on the money that we give them. And I think that Ontario is a province with great pride and wants to see its disadvantaged people helped more than they are today. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to Elaine McDonald, please.
I think I'll consider people who are receiving the Ontario Disability Support benefit in the same question. I hope that isn't coming up as the next question, I guess, because I would say that the rates for people who are receiving disability benefits and people who are receiving social assistance are so low that people can't survive on them. These are among the people who are using the food banks just to put food on their table. So yes, we support immediate assistance to people in these programs. But what we want to do is institute some far-reaching program based on careful analysis, and the analysis has been going on for over a year now. Now, I suspect that when Premier McGuinty hired Munir Sheikh and Francis Lankin to do a study, a review, a comprehensive review of social assistance and disability support programs in Ontario, I think it was to buy time, because the report isn't going to come in until after the election. And so as long as it looks like they're doing something, they're off the hook. But when that report comes in, we have firmly committed ourselves to adopting the recommendations of that report. Thank you.
And Mark McDonald.
Thank you. Not only do I agree with increasing social assistance rates, I belong to a party, and I represent a party that increased them 7 times in the last 8 years. What's important to note is that social assistance rates and social housing and social programs are tied so closely together. And when you listen to the Conservative platform, this is something that you cannot make any mistake about. They have a massive hole in their platform, a $14 billion hole in their platform. So when my opponent talks about, oh yeah, we're going to have some more money there for the disadvantaged, they have a $14 billion hole missing from their platform that they don't know how they're going to make it up. They've already admitted to it's a platform to get elected, not to govern. And I'll tell you how they make it up. The first ones to be hit are healthcare and education and our social programs. And it hits those that are disadvantaged. You look around Cornwall at the amount of work that was done, and don't take it from me. Call somebody that works back at social housing. I know I was the chair of the Cornwall Housing, and I've met with people, as recently as not long ago, that they're having issues with social housing. The city of Cornwall and the provincial government put millions of dollars into bringing social housing just up to a standard that's livable. And nobody has done more in the past few years than the Ontario Liberal government with respect to social issues and social housing.